you guys. I said 2 minutes, but I really meant 2 seconds.
That's the quickest 2 minutes ever.
My name is Lizy Hoeffer, guys. Thank you guys for coming to my class. Lots of new faces for me today. So for those of you who've not known me, I've been a power partner with my home group since they had 40 agents. So I've been here a long time. And the reason that I'm qualified to teach you on things like business is because when we partnered together, it was a time when I literally started at the very, very bottom. I had just been fired from my job, which meant that I had no database, no computer, no phone, no website, nothing, and had to build my business from scratch. In that time period, guys, my team has closed. It started with 167 deals a year, and it went up to 238, 412, I think it was, 529, and the last year we closed 634. This year to date, we've already closed over 450 deals. So I can tell you that I know how to grow and scale a business, and if you came here today to figure that out, I promise you're learning from somebody who knows how to share that with you, okay? So a couple things that I want us to get started with. This form here, you will not fill out today, okay? This is the form that we fill out after we know how to do the activity, okay? This activity, though, I have done over and over and over again, and I cannot tell you how impactful it's been. And if you make it a consistent practice in your business, and you can do it monthly, you can do it quarterly. I actually do it quarterly because for me that's when I have enough data to really move a needle. But you can really go weekly, I mean, truthfully. So I just kind of want to talk about a couple things. So there's a book that I think you guys should all get, and it's called Traction. It's on audio, and then I like to get an audio book, and then I actually like to go buy the physical book, because I don't know how you stop it and highlight things or go back to things on an audio book. So if I really like the book, I'll get it in physical. It's definitely worth listening to and definitely worth having a hard copy. The book is all about figuring out what kind of business you're building, what kind of vision you have for that, defining core values, and then what metrics are key to helping you generate more leads and close more deals. Okay? So this book was introduced to me last year, and it was about November time, and right when people are, planning their businesses for the following year. And every single year up until that point, everyone has always been like, well, if you want to do more deals, you have to do what? More prospecting, right? Isn't that what they say? You want to close more deals, make more phone calls? And I thought, well, geez, I feel like one person has so much capacity, right? There's only so many hours in a day. There's only so many, hours I can be prospecting. And if I chose not to do more, could I still do more? Right? And so for some of you in this room, the answer is going to be no. Okay? But there gets to be a point in your business when it's all about refining skill and refining time and refining quality of lead source, where you don't have to do more, you just have to do more better quality things. Does that make sense? At the very beginning, like if you're in the very beginning of this journey, you got to do everything. Okay? You got to knock on doors, make cold calls, have a milk route where you go and visit a whole bunch of people. You got to talk to all your friends and family. You got to figure it out. Right? We have no idea where you're going to have some traction. So if you are brand new, I would pick 3 things, right? And I would hammer them out. So I would do open houses, I would hit up a database, and I would start calling leads. Now, if you have no money for leads, get lists from your title company, call expired, SFISBOs, whatever, but you've got to start doing activities, right? I wouldn't pick more than 3 pillars of business because it's really challenging to track the data, okay? So I'm going to ask you a couple questions here because I want to gauge your experience. How many of you actually track your activities now and know how many dials, how many conversions you make per week? Raise your hand. Okay, so that's an item that we need to work on, right? So if you do not currently do that, write that down as an item you need to work on. Okay, so you need to track your activities. Okay. It's okay.
Turn off your phone.
I'm not gonna turn it off, but I'll turn it down.
How about let's put it on silent? Okay, so we're gonna track our activities. Okay, why do we track our activities?
So you know where it's coming from. You know exactly where your business is coming from, so you can keep your little gauge.
Okay, so when you track your activities, right, you know where you're making headway. Okay, so you can track things. So here's what I track. I track phone calls, right? And I track phone calls because I want to know how many dials I actually made. But then I also track good conversations. Okay, so here's what a good conversation has in it. You ask for a referral, or you set up an appointment to meet with them. Or, right, the very last thing, you got something from the call that will give you a reason to call them back. Okay, so they mentioned that they, heard of this really great book. Send them the book and then follow up with them on the book. Right, that's a good example. But a great conversation has to lead up to something. Here's where we get confused. We have good conversations with friends and family and we never bring up business. It doesn't count. Okay, so it has to result in setting up a meeting, getting a referral, right, or getting homework. Okay, so I track dials, conversations, face-to-face meetings. Okay, so if I've spent 5 minutes talking to you, I know your name, we've exchanged contact information, right, I have a reason to follow up, I count that. Now, I do not count everybody in this class, right? Because what don't I know? Names, contact information, and I hope to see you again, right? So you have to measure the quality, okay? So face-to-faces. A belly-to-belly meeting is something else I quantify, right? And typically I want that to incorporate some kind of food, okay? So I want to be breaking bread with somewhere between 3 to 5 people a week, okay? Now, there's a difference between a face-to-face and a break bread. A break bread is way, way more intimate. I've taken, the people that I have seen throughout the week and then deepened my relationship with them, okay? So we're talking about dials, conversations, face-to-faces, break breads, okay? So we track activities, okay? What other things do you need to track, you think? Okay, results. So track results. Okay, and results are going to be quantified by how many appointments you booked, right? How many leads you got, how many escrows you put in. That's right? So appointments, leads, escrows. Okay? Now, here's, if you sign into the sign-in sheet, I'm actually going to send you something called a business spreadsheet. How many of you guys are just barely starting? June's going to be your first month. Okay, the 3 of you, I'll need to talk to you after the class, okay? Because nothing that I'm going to send out is going to apply for you, okay? But there is still ways to do metrics and figure out things, okay? But we're just going to give you a generic recipe. For the rest of you, this spreadsheet's going to tell you how many deals you've done this year, okay? You're going to track, was it a buy side, was it a listing side, what your commission was, right? What the source of the referral was there a person related to your source, right? Because people will say sphere of influence, so what does that mean? Was it a friend or family? Was it Sally? Did Sally give you multiple leads? Right? We're trying to figure out trends in your business. And then, if you're really good, what the activity was that generated the lead. Okay? And what we're really trying to identify, guys, is one, where your pillars of business naturally gravitate. Right? Because at the very beginning, when you're barely hustling, you're doing everything that you can, right? You're doing everything. Okay? At some point in your business, you do get traction, we start closing deals, and then we get confused, right? And then it's like shiny object syndrome, And in real estate, oh my God, you guys have so many shiny objects. There's a new tool, a new coaching program, a new farming system, a new whatever. I mean, there are so many, okay? But if you look at your business spreadsheet, it will tell you exactly where your business comes from, okay? Typically, the average agent, the majority of their business is going to come from people that know and like them, okay? Now, people that know and like you, though, might be two different sources, okay? So I had a really, really successful agent in my office, and he's like, well, I only have one pillar. I only deal with sphere. I said, okay, well, let's break that down, right? I had him do the activity, and he's involved in 3 different charity groups, okay? Networking is not sphere of influence. Networking is networking. Like, if you're not going on vacation with those people, they're not your friends. They're people you know and like in business. Right? Isn't that weird? Like, I had to just define that. Like, what? Who's my friend? Right? But it's super important you know, right? Because if you are getting a lot of traction from volunteering in charity groups, and you want to, like, up-level your business, what could you do?
If I go to eat?
You can deepen your relationships with those people, but what else could you do? Join more charity groups, get more involved, join the board, right? Is one more impactful than the other, right? Like, the more involved you get, you probably would see more deals, right? But if you didn't know that and you're just like, yeah, my friends hook me up, right? You just don't know where to spend your time, right? So networking is not the same as friends and family, okay? Past clients and current clients are not the same as your friends and family, okay? That's your actual client database, okay? Now, database does make up the largest percentage, but it can still be broken down into pillars, okay? So here's the thing, if you are somebody that only likes to do business by relationship, okay, then you have to focus all of your time on relationship making activities, right? So you've got to break it down. So if 30% of your business comes from past clients, then we have to figure out, how are we marketing to them? How are we connecting with them? How frequent do they hear from us, right? Do they like the things that I'm putting out for them? Do I have a great birthday campaign? Like, what's the deal, right? How can you improve upon that, the percentage that you want to grow your business? Okay. Now, if it's friends and family, right, and you're getting a lot of business there, you know there are activities that adults do that help them make more friends, right? We can't always grow our families, right, but we can make more friends, right? So social groups, meetups, alumni groups, you know, things that we can go to, like, meet people and make more friends, okay? Or there's business networking, right? I started my business actually with 0 realtors. It was 100% business networking. Bankers, financial planners, divorce attorneys. I was big in B&I. I ran something called the Scottsdale Network Connection, right? So for me, it was just all about business. And what's great about business relationships is that you go in, and everyone knows it's a business relationship. They want referrals, and you want referrals, right? So there's no confusion. I love really authentic relationships, right? So it's nice to go and other people are like, okay, here's how I can help you with your business. Here's what I need from you, right? So you can build a business like that. Now, so if that was your thing, right, then you just have to look at how many you have in each category, right, and how we're going to do it. So this business spreadsheet, guys, is going to be super duper impactful on helping you just get clarity on where you get your business now, okay? It will tell you your number 1, your number 2, and your number 3. Now, there are some of you in this room who only have 2, okay? That is not enough, okay? I've learned this from a really, really long time. You need 3 pillars of business because economies change, like, people change, you know, you just can't have all of your eggs in just that many baskets. 3 is a good number of baskets to have multiple eggs in, okay? So what happens is, a lot of us will have, like, friends and family, past clients, right, and then we don't have anything else. You have to diversify, and there's lots of things you can do, right? You can start a business networking group, you can do a milk route. A milk route, guys, is one of my favorite things. It's actually how I built my business. I started at the Arrowhead Mall, and when I did it at that time, there were a lot of smaller shops in there. And I just went around and I met all of the business owners. So there was a guy from a cigar shop, there was a puppet guy, there was a guy who sold all kinds of like security knickknacks. The Model Home Center was there. That's a real estate group that only sold to new home developments. The security guards, the ladies at Dillard's who sold perfume, right? I just went around and I met them all and introduced myself as a loan officer. I sat at the Model Home Center. I did it 3 times a week, right? And so it was my milk rat. So I brought them information. I actually used to pick up all of their coffee orders and drop them off. I was just if you need something done, you ask her. And in return, because I was so helpful, people, I actually think they felt sorry for me, which is a total, that's totally fine, right? However, but the thing is, you do feel sorry for the person working their butt off, right? Trying to make an impact in their business, right? And so I got a lot of referrals from that, okay? So take it however you get it, right? But you always feel endeared to those people that are working super hard, right? You're like, God, I have so much respect for them, right? But I will take a caramel macchiato, right? Okay, so we gotta start collecting data. The other thing is too, guys, you wanna make more money, you need to know how much money you actually earn per transaction. I cannot even tell you how many people think they get 3%, and when we do the math, it's like almost 2, right? So you need to know how much you make. Okay, so what also impacts commission?
Time spent getting the deal.
We're gonna use time. But this is a math thing.
Fees.
So you have fees, right? Sales price, marketing. Okay, so there's a lot of things that go into that. Team splits, right? Brokerage fees. So just know, well, I put fees already, I guess. Apparently that one's a sore subject for me. Okay, so these are things that have an impact in your business too, right? So it's not always about doing more, remember, it's about refining quality, right? So these are the things I need you to start tracking, okay? Now, Stephanie hit something that was my last thing that I was gonna say we have to, no, I love it. I don't know. It's time, right? Because we only have so much of it. The one equalizer amongst every single person in this room is that we all have the exact same amount of time. Okay, now we're not very effective with our time, right? Some of us, right? But we all have the exact same amount of it. Okay, so now that you know what you need to track and how many pillars of business you need, right? I'm going to show you how to fill out this form. Okay, so you're going to get all the data from everything that you've collected. Okay. And then you have to start writing. How many of you guys had goals when you started at the beginning of the year? Okay. How many of you guys had a plan to achieve the goal? Keep raising your hand. Okay. So, is it all the same people? Did that plan incorporate how many activities you were doing, what you were going to do, the sources of business? Okay, keep them up if it did. Okay. So, less and less, less. If you have, hey, I'm going to do 100 deals this year, right? And I'm going to make $100 a week, right? That's a pretty okay plan, okay? But it's not enough to get you to where you're at, and there isn't enough accountability with that, right? So here's what happens. If you have a goal without a plan, that's called a wish. It doesn't really count, okay? And you never feel a penalty for not hitting it, right? You know those people that say, like, oh, my goal is 100, but if I get 75, I'm still going to be super proud of myself. Make your goal 75. Seriously, it does not do you any benefit to do that, right? Because that's just a wish. A goal is something that you define, you put on paper, and you have a plan to hit. Okay? There are 2 results that matter. Do and do not. Do and didn't. Okay? When we're tracking things and we're talking about keep, start, stop, that's it. There's no, I almost hit it, well, this is why I didn't hit it. It's like, I didn't hit it, or I did hit it, and here's what I'm gonna do now, right? So you just have to have that mentality when it comes to goals. It's, this is what I said I'm doing, this is the plan of attacking, this is when I'm gonna check on it, this is how I'm gonna hold it accountable, okay? So it's gonna ask you what your goals were when you started this, right? So if you had a goal of doing 100 deals, all right, well, let's make it 120 deals, because I could do that math in my head, right? You should have, right, how many deals done by the end of July? 70 deals done, okay? Right? You should know what your average sales price is, so what your goal in volume was, how much income you wanted to earn off of that, right? How many warm leads. So a warm lead, guys, is defined as somebody who was referred to you, right? Or a lead that you spoke to that says, yes, I'm gonna get in the car with you, okay? Cold leads are just the number of internet leads that we gather, or the number of people we have on a list. Okay, does that make sense? You need a number of active buyers and active sellers, okay? Here is a metric that people don't count, their fallout ratio. So write that down as something you need to start tracking, right? So if I get 10 deals in escrow, I typically will close 7 to 8, right? Some of them roll over, some of them cancel, you know, people are crazy. It just happens, okay? But you have to know what that is, because if your goal is to hit 120 and you have a 70% conversion rate, how many deals do you really have to get in escrow? It's more than that, right? So you just have to know what that is, okay? So then, I always look at this every single quarter. I actually have the VTO, I actually track this daily, weekly, monthly too, but I fill this thing out once a quarter, okay? And so I'm looking at my past quarter performance, and so I'm saying of the goal, how much of it is complete? And I divide that yearly target by 4 quarters, right, and I come up with benchmarks. Where should I be at this given point, okay? Now, how many of us have been in the business more than 3 years? Okay, so at this point in time, you know that you have trends in business. So like for me, July, January, and February are my lowest months of the year, okay? I always just have the lowest closings. I could accept that, just so you know. I could say, hey, that's when and then try to do more on the other months. Or I could say I need to do more activities between 90 days before these months to prevent that from happening, okay? So both mind frames are correct. You don't have to go by either one, but you just should know that. Okay, so where should you be at in your benchmarks, and where were the results? So where should you be at, where are the results? And then, again, like I said, you didn't or didn't, right? It's yes or no questions. Did you hit it, right? This should be uncomfortable, okay? Even if you fill it out for yourself, right? So just make sure you fill it out. Then, we want to look at what we're doing in business, okay? So what marketing activities we're doing, okay? So here's what qualifies marketing, okay? Anything that's passive communication. So your communication going outward, okay? So a phone call, a face-to-face, belly-to-belly meetings, those are considered prospecting, but a mailer is marketing. A Facebook post, marketing, okay? Like an ad, marketing, okay? They don't really, I mean, they can have an impact over time, but they're more expensive, just so you know, or more time consuming, right, to capture, to put people in your net, okay? Now, you still have to have a business that has marketing and prospecting, because like I said, over the course of time, the compound effect takes place, and people will get to know your brand, they'll get to know your message, they get to know all these things, and it's way easier, okay? So know what you're doing in marketing. Okay, how are you attracting new things? How many people have a good social media? Okay, cool. This might be an area that you want to work on. Okay, we know that people are researching us more than ever, right? Consumers are way more informed than they ever have been before. It means a lot to them to see reviews for you online. It means a lot for them to see your messaging. They have to know and like you, right? More people are finding their real estate agents online than ever before, right? So does it make sense for you to have a good marketing strategy, at least when it comes to social media? Yes, in my humble opinion. Okay, then we need to track your prospecting activities, right? So I'm going to be sending you what's called a greatness tracker or win the day tracker, okay? It has a call list and then a list of check marks of things you have to get done during the day, okay? It is really good. I've used it for a very long time. I actually use the Greatness Tracker by the Core, which you can also download here at my home group, which is so awesome. That's actually the form I use. I'm super consistent. I still fill it out, and every 2 weeks I turn it into a coach, right, who yells at me when I don't fill it out, okay? So you gotta know that. Now, same thing. If you're spending money, okay, on marketing activities, you should give it 60, 90, and 6 month time frame, okay? So 60, 90, and 180 days, okay? I need you guys to know within 180 days if you're dropping something, okay? Now, things like farms, I've heard, take 2.5 years to start generating business. So, if you have no money, what marketing activities shouldn't you be doing? Okay, yes, unless you're going to be like hitting that up with door knocking, a milk route, open houses, like infiltrating that in multiple ways, okay? So passive activities that cost a lot of money is probably not the way you should go if you're branding, okay? The next thing, guys, right, is how we grow, right? How are we trying to improve our stuff, right? So when we look at this, are we giving ourselves the amount of time that we need to actually analyze the data? Okay? So I actually, on a daily basis, have 2 meetings. I have a meeting to go over operations to make sure that all my files are moving on time, and I just keep track of it. I'm very basic. So my CRM will turn a file red if it didn't hit a timeline, yellow if it's about not to hit a timeline, and green. I only deal with red and yellow, right? And congratulate people on green, okay? But I go over that every single day. And then with my sales team, I go, how many leads did we get? How many did we convert? How many butts and seats, right? Because I want people in my office. And then I want to know how many dials they made, right? Because if their conversion isn't hit, I check the dials, number 1. I'm like, are they doing the right of activities? If they're doing the right number of activities, having the conversations, but they aren't converting, what do I need to improve? Their scripts, yes. Like they're saying the wrong things. They're not closing, okay? You need to know this. If you were doing 100 phone calls a week and you were getting 1 lead, do we think we need to work on our scripts? Yes, and maybe, or we need to work on our quality of leads, right? So just know that.
So
okay?
how much should you get out of 100 phone calls? Because I think one's kind of good. I mean, it sounds bad.
So here's the Northwestern Mutual. They sell life insurance.
Uh-huh.
So for out of every 10 people you speak to,
You should get
7 are going to say no, 3 will say maybe, and 1 out of the 3 says yes. So out of 100, you should get 10. Okay? Does that help you?
Conversion skills. That's my problem. Yeah.
It's okay. So does that help you guys? Now, here's the trickier thing. How do you get to 100 conversations?
Yeah, you have to make more than 100 calls.
Yeah, you gotta make way more than 100 calls. Okay? That's the kicker, right? But when you talk, but that's theirs. And they're selling life insurance, which I think is just as hard as selling real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe harder. Okay? Because you have to talk to people about them actually dying. Well, it's like, hey, about that. Really a comfortable topic. Right? Well, so it's pragmatic, but everyone has to live somewhere. Right?
Above or underneath.
So you have to dedicate, guys, time to review your metrics, time to review what you're doing, okay? And it has to be at a minimum weekly, okay? This is the first thing to go in anyone's business. You get stressed out for a hot minute, you're dumping anything that has to do with growth on your business, okay? I don't know why it happens. It's very important, right? It's just like, and here's what's sick about it. So it takes 21 times to actually develop a habit and 3 times that you don't do it to completely derail you. 21 times consistently, 3 times you don't do it. Yep, you gotta start all over. Okay guys, then you also have to dedicate time spent in your business working on administrative things, okay? Now, when you're new in business, here's what's super challenging, right? Your most important job ever is to get more leads. Write this down. This is gonna be the holy grail. Every solution to every problem you have is more leads. Seriously, you got a money problem, get more leads. No, I mean, it's really true. Like, this is how impactful this has become for me. So I'm going to tell you something personal. My dad actually got diagnosed with cancer a couple years ago, and I was responsible for paying for his medical treatment, okay? Do you think more leads was the solution to that problem? Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay? Because I was able to hustle and work hard and knew how to do that, I was able to do things that I never thought I could do, okay? So I promise you, more leads solves all problems, okay? But you will get confused, because what happens is you get one person who trusts you to do their home loan, and you'll follow it around like a little pot of gold. You're like, I don't want to lose you, right? This is my most important client in the whole wide world. And then you will stop all of your prospecting, stop all your growth time, and you will focus 100% of your time on administrative activities that could be handled by somebody else. Okay? So remember that I told you that, and when you start hovering around your little pot of gold, right, you gotta be like, no, my number one job is what? More leads. Okay? So then, on time. How many of you guys are coached, listen to podcasts, actively trying to improve your life? Okay. This is super important. You gotta dedicate time for that. I think daily, but at a minimum weekly. Okay? You gotta spend time constantly improving it. So if you know you gotta work on like your selling skills, I would be listening to Grant Cardone 10x, right, every single day, and I'd be rehearsing those scripts. I'd be looking in the mirror, saying those scripts. I'd be trying to close my husband on something, you know,
I do that all the
right?
time.
See,
That one's easy.
well, but you'll be like, oh, I just did the takeaway close. Dad, you don't need that. I'll take it back.
I'm gonna write that name. So Grant Cardone. I've never heard of Grant.
Grant Cardone.
Thank you.
If you don't know who Grant Cardone is, he's an amazing salesperson.
Sweet.
Okay.
Thank you.
You also have to plan for how you're going to have off time. Okay? Because the number one killer to a top performer is burnout. Okay? And it's very easy to be super duper motivated when you are in survival. Okay? When you got bills to pay, you can get to work. Okay? When your bills are getting paid, it's really hard to get to work. I know it sounds really strange, but it is really hard because the grind is super difficult. This thing is like an airplane, 120%, you gotta give it. Like, you're gonna be doing everything. And then you get some momentum and you've got your bills paid. You no longer have that whole, like, you know, somebody at your door. That's when it gets really, really challenging, okay? So if you plan for downtime and how you're gonna have fun and you give yourself rewards for success, then you want to do other things. You want to go on the next cool vacation. You want to buy the next cool thing, right? And then it becomes fun. You're like, okay, now I got to get back to work. I want to go to Barcelona now, right? Screw Mexico City, I'm going to Spain, right? Like, so you just have to make this a priority. Most business people do not, okay? Most business people grind it out, are super confused, doing whatever, they hover over their deals, they have no money, they work on it super hard again, they have no money again. The same thing, it's like, right? Now, the only way for me to grow over and over and over and over again in a super down market is to know all these things and to be super consistent with them, okay? So this is the recipe. I know I do not work on anything for more than 90 days. If I cannot figure it out within 90 days, I typically throw it out or change the process, okay? There are some things that are really difficult, right? If I cannot take traction on a lead generating thing for 90 days, I'm not gonna try it for another year. I'm gonna say, you know what, I'm no good at calling internet leads, that's not true, I'm really good at calling internet leads. But I'm gonna give up and I'm gonna try something else, Okay, 90 days is enough time to find out if you're getting good at it or not. Okay, I can tell you that my number one lead generating thing is a mill grab. Like when I see people face to face and I can have a great 5-minute conversation and we can exchange information and I can follow up, that for me moves the needle more than making 100 phone calls. I know that because I track my activities and I track the leads that came from it. Okay, so when the going gets really tough and leads get really hard, I do a whole lot of mill grabs. I go to real estate offices, I go to my divorce attorneys, I sponsor events, I'm at every networking thing, right? Because I want to see as many people as possible because that's where I get the highest conversion, okay? I used to spend hours on the phone trying to cold call real estate agents, and I just could not figure out a selling proposition fast enough or not annoying enough. I think I was super intimidated. And so I just had to drop that completely, right? I just could not do that. You have to drop things you're not good at even when other people tell you it's the number one thing, okay? If you are no good at it, it is not your number one thing, okay? So people who have momentum here, I'm gonna pick on them. So Stephanie, what are your pillars of business?
Sphere of influence in past clients and social media marketing right now is really big for us, and internet leads is a constant.
Okay, so she has 4 pillars of business. Okay, so she had her friends and family, she has past clients, she has her marketing, and she has internet leads. Okay, how did it start though?
It started with sphere of influence and social media. We got in on social media very, very early, and then once we started generating revenue, we went into online leads, and then once we had past clients, we went back to past clients.
Okay, do you see how it happened? So this last part is projects, right? So here's the thing. When you look at your business spreadsheet, it's going to tell you what your number one pillar of business is, okay? Your very first project should be maximizing your number one pillar of business, okay? This is not the sexiest thing you could pick. I get it. You're probably like, I'm a pro at this. But here's why it makes sense, okay? So my database was the strongest thing. So I picked it and I said, Keller Williams has this really, really amazing 33 touch, and so I started Googling it and researching it. And I had been coached by Brian Buffini, who tells you to send out the item of value every single month. And then the core is like, send out evidence of success and letters of the heart and all this stuff. And so I looked at it and I created my own 33 touch, right, of things that felt authentic to me with a birthday program. So I send out birthday cupcakes, right? And I figured out how I was going to do it. Every single quarter, I pick my number one thing, and I look at it and I go, how can I improve on every single step 10%? So write that down. Your number one thing, you need to learn to maximize it. Write down all your steps and figure out how you're going to improve upon it 10%, every step. This will continue to improve this one thing so it never gets stale. People don't get bored of it. They get excited, right? You'll figure out what events have moved the needle the most. Like for me, birthday cupcakes I will never get rid of. Because for me, they have the most ROI. People refer me and they go, oh, and she's going to send you cupcakes on your birthday. It's just how they refer me now, right? And those cupcakes, you would be so surprised, actually are the tipping point, right? And I have, I've missed up sometimes where I didn't send them. I've had people reach out to me.
Where's my cupcake? Where's my cupcake?
Yeah, right. So just let me tell you. So I know I'm never getting rid of that. Now, what I have tweaked are my closing gifts, right? I've tweaked other gifts. I've tweaked my client events. I've tweaked things that didn't have the same kind of social collateral, right? But I'm constantly working on the plan, even though I get a lot of referrals from it. Okay? Right? The next thing that I do to get business, right, is I teach business professionals. So I teach realtors and divorce attorneys once a month. Okay? And I teach divorce attorneys because divorce attorneys are just like realtors. They know two people who are separating and one person has to go. One person definitely needs a new place sometimes too. Right? So for me, that's a really good source, right? I'm figuring out who has leads, how do I provide value, okay? So I work on my classes, right? There's 3 classes I teach 6 times a year. I feel like I'm an expert in those classes. And then the rest of the year, the 6 I improve. This is the first time I've taught this one, right? I'll go back and listen to the tape and try to improve upon it, right? Did I get anything from the class, right? So you'll see. So I know that my milk routes, my number 1 prospecting activity, my database, right, with business contacts is my number 1 source. Okay, so in your project list, you have to identify your number 1 prospecting skill and then your number 1 prospecting source. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, and your project list for the next 90 days has to be how you're improving upon it, how you're maximizing it, how you're going to generate the most deals from it. Okay? Now, I would not recommend having any more than 3 projects. I really, truly like to just take one and just constantly work on it. It's not, but I always, well, I guess that's not true. I always look at my number 1 source to make sure that one's good, but I'm always trying to improve the other 2 sources, right? So I kind of flip-flop between my other ones, right, and how I'm going to make them better. The last thing you guys need to know is all the things that are going to prevent you from doing your projects, right, that are going to prevent you from doing your prospecting, prevent you from doing your growth time. You've got to figure out what they are. So for some of you, it's going to be your emotions. Seriously, you're going to not be able to get past your emotions. Some of you are like financial, right? You're so stressed about money, or you don't have the money. You just have to be super honest on what it is and then what your things are. So when I first started, guys, I was a 23-year-old with 0 money. I had a $10 budget a week to eat, okay? So I could not spend anything. The only thing I could do was give you my time, okay? So that's what I sold, my time and effort, okay? Now, when you go and pick up everyone's coffee, guys, like the nice people who like don't want to pick up the coffee will be like, I'll pick up yours too, thanks for doing this, right? So you don't have to spend money, you just have to provide value, okay? But just know what they are. Now, here's what happens when you have a crazy goal, right? The natural thing is to get scared. If it scares you, it's an awesome goal. If it does not scare you, it's probably not a good enough goal, okay? And so what scares you, you have to go, okay, so this is my goal. I probably can't do this. But if I was going to do this, what would I need to have? Okay, that's how I like convince myself to do anything. Right? Oh, I probably can't do this, but if I was, right, what would I need to have? Okay? So figure out if it's a time challenge, guys, if it's a financial challenge, if it's an emotional challenge. Okay? Emotional challenges, join a support group, get a coach, get a therapist.
Get over it.
No, that's what you do when you have an emotional problem. You literally go and get help for it. You address it. I am professionally coached, have had a ton of therapy. Okay? I really have. But I have to do big things. You cannot do big things in chaos. Right? You can't add drama to chaos, let me tell you. Okay. If it's a financial thing, put yourself on a budget and figure out everything you can do with time and effort. Time and effort still cost you money. They just don't cost you physical dollars. Okay? Does this make sense for everybody? How to fill this out? This is one of the most impactful things I do for my business once a quarter. It helps me move the needle, and if you really want to spend some time going through metrics, having me review your business plans, and I can show you, I'm like an impartial person, right? I don't go, I feel like I'm good at phone calls. I can tell you, this is where you're moving the needle, right? This is where you're having traction. Okay, if you want to sit down and do that, I'm having some mini mastermind sessions at my office. They're limited to 10 people because you can't go over people's business plans like in a room of 30. It takes too long. So if that is something that interests you, stay afterwards and I'll get your name and we'll get you signed up for it. but we can go through this in depth, right? This is just to learn how to do the activity and what things you need to move the needle. Okay? So can I ask you guys a question? I've asked you several, but say yes.
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 Okay. Did you get one item of value from this class today?
Yes.
Okay. If you felt that you got one item of value, I am not a professional speaker. I'm actually a loan officer who closes lots of deals for a living. And I would appreciate a chance at your next deal. Okay? So, scratch your back, scratch mine. Thank you. So I'll stay afterwards, guys, and answer questions and go over this in depth, okay? But I'd like to not do it on camera. Can I?
Yeah.
I didn't get one of
Did
those.
it.
Oh, yeah.
I'll get you a better one.